Peace, love, and divine light. I hope the sun is shining wherever you are and you're living in your greatest purpose. I have come on here to give a message, and the title of the message is The Worst Thing You Can Do to Your Enemies. Now, some of you may be startled by the title of this message because you may not like to think that you have enemies, or you prefer to say that you don't have enemies. Well, the case is, and the truth is, the closer you walk in your purpose, okay, the more you walk in your power, there are going to be people that are your enemies. And what makes them your enemy? Okay, why should you call them an enemy? Someone who's considered an enemy is actually someone who considers themselves an enemy to you. Most likely, you may not consider them an enemy, yet they consider themselves your enemy. And how do they make themselves an enemy? By opposing, blocking your purpose, blocking your path, making it very intentional. That is exactly what they are doing. They are not out there to assist you in elevating your life, your purpose. They're very clear in their intentions. Sometimes they may not make their intentions known, yet if you are very observant about the kind of energies that you're dealing with, you will see that's exactly what they are doing. They may do things to delay things for you. However it is that blockage shows up, that is what this energy is about. Okay. And part of this blockage and how they tend to block you is they do various things, whether it's direct or indirect. Now, let's talk about the subject of the matter, which is, what is the worst thing you can do to your enemy? One of the worst things that you can do to your enemy, and I'm going to list them. There's about like 3 or 4 things, and there's definitely a lot more. Okay. There's definitely a lot more. One of the worst things that you can do to your enemy is to know who you are. Know exactly who you are. Know your purpose. You see, many of you, before you knew who you were, you may have considered yourself to be someone who's very friendly, and people thought of you as friendly as well. Okay. Many of you, were not considered a threat to anyone prior to not knowing who you are, which is, in fact, walking in your power. When you know who you are walking in your power. For many of you, the minute that you walk in your power, you get to know that there are people that automatically they are not vibing with that energy. They're not vibing with the new kind of energy, especially when you're dealing with people that knew you before you were walking in your power. They become very comfortable seeing you in a position of less than, seeing you in a very vulnerable position, because what that means is that you have people who are able to take advantage of you. And by taking advantage of you, they are easily more likely to be able to block you, to control you, to maneuver your path. In essence, you become some sort of a puppet in the eyes of these people. And so a lot of times what you get to know is that your enemies, they like puppets. What they don't like is someone with power, someone who is walking in your power. And for many of you, the minute that you start to walk in your power, you will see that the enemies will make themselves known. Okay, they will make themselves known. So a lot of those that actually hide their intentions, they may appear as friends because they're, finding ways, or they find ways to get into your energy to block you. As long as they, have a path open, a way open to be able to block you, to be able to maneuver, to be able to manipulate you, they may categorize themselves as friends, which are actually false friends. Now, the minute that you start to walk in your power, a lot of those enemies with hidden agendas, they make themselves known. They make it very clear that they're your enemies, and you will become a lot more aware of their original agenda that you may not have been aware of before, as soon as you start to walk in your power. So you see, walking in your power causes a lot of problems to your enemies, because it makes it so that they have to work a lot harder. Okay, they have to work a lot harder to cause ill. They have to work a lot harder to block your path. And especially those who are used to manipulating people. Okay. And again, we said that they're more easily able to manipulate you when you're not walking in your power. So when you walk in your power, they have to come up with a lot more creative ways to block your path, to block your purpose, to create delays in your life. So when you know yourself, you walk in your power, your enemies do not like that. So this is one of the worst things that you can do to your enemy, is to know yourself. The second thing that you can do to your enemies, okay, the second worst thing, okay, and this is more so a list of observation, more so than a list of, okay, this is what you ought to do kind of thing. Like this, and also this comes with a word of caution to know that you should never live your life, for the sole purpose of getting back at anyone, okay, to retaliate against anyone. This is more so of information for you to observe, okay. This is a means for you to observe various things in people, and perhaps this will make it a lot more it will bring a lot more clarity for you to be able to see and detect the people that are enemies in your life that may not make it so obvious. Okay, so for example, you may observe the difference between, when you came into your power as opposed to when you weren't walking in your power, and see what the difference in behavior are in regards to the people in your life, and you can make very clear decisions, because what this is about is walking in clarity. Okay, it's about walking in clarity, and part of walking in clarity means that you walk in your power, you walk in your knowing, you walk in, the true identity of who you are as a spiritual being, as an elevated being. All right, so walking in your powers is definitely important. Knowing who you are is important. Okay, because a lot of these folks out here that know that they're your enemies, they have made themselves your enemies, they have hidden agendas. And it is important that you know yourself. You know yourself. Now, another observation, you may make is that you may notice that one of the worst things that you can do to your enemy, or perhaps you will see, is that the more support you have, all right, and this also comes in with walking in your power, the more support you have, okay, whether this is physical or spiritual, you may notice that your enemies, they don't like that. Because because your enemies cannot and will not have victory over you if they know that you have the sort of spiritual backing or physical backing, the kind of support that is necessary, that offers your protection. Because as you become aware in your spiritual walk, of the kind of support that you have, whether that is spiritual or physical, this changes a lot. This changes a lot. And when the people that call themselves your enemies see that you have that support, that's one of those things, again, that makes it a lot more challenging for them to do and carry out whatever plan that they have. Okay, those hidden agendas. For many of you, the people that call themselves your enemies were very adamant in seeing you be in a position where you may not have had other sources of support, or they wanted you to be in a state where you were not aware of the support that you have, especially the spiritual backing that you have as a chosen, as someone who is an elevated being. You have spiritual backing, and your enemies did not want you to know this. And this knowing that you have spiritual backing comes with knowing yourself. Okay? And so continue to walk in your power. And walking in your power means knowing who you are, knowing that you have, that you are an elevated being, knowing that you have spiritual backing, that you're not doing this thing alone. Okay. And knowing that you are not walking alone changes everything. You are divinely guided, divinely supported, divinely protected. Okay. And your enemies do not want to hear those words, that you are someone who is protected. And you may be someone who's protected and may not have known that. And your knowing changes everything. Now we know that there are probably a list of things that they don't want you to know, okay, as an elevated being. Okay, these are just some of the things, all right, that puts you in a very powerful position. All right. So continue to elevate yourself, continue to gather the tools that you need. Peace, love, divine light.